Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see how we can fix our current predicament. Yes. How do we get information from just an ID like this? Now, there are several ways we can do this. One of those is while we are looping through the courses like this, right? While we are looping through the courses, we can right here create a function within each loop which will read from the database to read the particular content of that particular row. So because every row has may have a different category, so within the loop here we can actually create a function here to get a row for that particular category. Oh wait, the ID here is not dynamic, so let me copy that. I didn't put that properly. So row scope. Let's put that here. The ID we are sure is safe, so we're just going to say row ID. Okay, great. I doubt it will change. I think it's still 1. Okay. Now, this is not the very object-oriented way to do things, where we start creating functions in here, etc., etc. We don't want to be creating anything complicated in the view file. And this is because we want these view files to be easily changeable, so that in case I change the view, the way my website appears, I shouldn't have to deal with functions in here, etc., etc. I just need to copy a few of these items to the next thing. So no complicated code should be in a view file. It should all be either in the controller or in the model or in the functions.php. So in this case, we have a course model. This model is responsible for getting the data from that particular table. So why not use that instead to deal with things? So what we're going to do is this. We can create a function right in here in the course model, so that because remember, we have in the main model here, we have these functions that we use to read data, right? But we want this after this function runs, for example. Okay, like the where function, because this is what we're using to read that information. We want to tell it to run a few more functions that do other things, like in the course model here, because we want that data intercepted before we show it to the user. So let's do it in a systematic way, so that the problem is that each model will have a different function. For example, in the courses model, I may need to run a function that retrieves the category ID. That's not what I'll need for the user model. I'll need something else there. So each one has to have a unique set of functions that you run. So here, what I did to solve this problem in what I do in my own projects is I've created other variables here. So the same way we have these variables here, these arrays where we have allowed columns, I can create something like after select, okay, and then before insert or before update. Those are the most useful ones. So we'll create functions, arrays as we need them. Okay, so what we can do now is we can create functions that will run after a select statement has been run. We can create functions that will run before an update has been done, or we can create ones that after. So you can create as many as you want. It's just up to you. So here, what I want to do is this is a course model. After select, I want to run a few functions. So let's move this a little bit like so. Okay. So I just need to put the names of the functions that I want to run here. So I'm going to call one function. These are functions I haven't named yet. This one will be get category. That's what I'll call it, duplicate. There will be another one, get price. there's a lot to get from this table. Let's see here. There's user ID. So we can have all that, get user, so that we have all this information about that course. So get user, get category, get subcategory. There's quite a number here to get. Wait. Okay, because there can be so much to do. That's why we want to do it in a systematic way, because when the website grows too big, we don't want to start having problems. So it should be easy to expand. If I want to add one more function, I just add it here and then create the function, and then I know it will run after every select statement. So it's always a good idea to do things like this. So get level. As long as you have a system, then we are good. Oh my god, this is language ID, right? Okay, so there's get language. What else do we need to get here? Price, language, level. Okay, so final, I guess, is language. Alrighty then, very good. So all these functions should run after a select. So let's create these babies. We'll go to the end of the page. Now, since these functions will always just run inside this, we don't want to run these functions outside. We'll write protected and use that. So I'll just remove protected function and get category, right? Let's open and close and do that. Okay, what have I done? What have I did? Okay, there we go. Let me move this down. Okay, so for each one of these, I will need to put that. So I will do this and paste. Let's go to the end and do that and do that and boom. Great, we're looking good. Let me just move things lower. I didn't need that last one. Okay, so these functions, get category, get what. So these will run when whenever we specify. So the advantage of this system is that if I want this get category function to run after a different action, I'll just put it in that particular array and that's it. Okay, so things are easy to move around. Now, we need to be able to allow these things to run. So the first thing we'll do is, first of all, these functions need to have some data input here because they are running after a select statement, right? So it means that select statement will have some data that was returned from that select. So let's use the word data to represent that. Or we can just say rows, just so we are sure what that is. Okay, so it's going to be supplied the rows that were returned when we did a select because we need those. And then let me go down here like this and move up. In the end, we have to return the rows again because otherwise the next function requires those rows. Let's say we're adding content. There could be one function that adds something and then the next function will add some other thing. So keep in mind that when we put functions like this, they will run in this order. And so if you want this function to have something that this has created, you have to put them in the correct order so that they get the information they need. Anyway, you understand this a bit later once we start using it. For now, this is all we need. We run these functions, they return whatever we've given them, and we are golden. So like this, we haven't queued anything yet. So I just want to make sure that they are running. Right now, they are not connected to anything. They will not run just because we added them to this. We have to tell them to run inside the model here. Okay, so let's start with the where function, since that's the function we're using right now. So I'm going to go here. The where function is always a select. So we know that when we use the where function, we were selecting something. So that's nice. And then this is the result of that select, right? That's the result. Now, before we return this result, we have to run a couple of functions. So here I'm going to go down here and put something, say run functions, run after select functions, right? Let's go here and do that, like this. Okay, so in order to run those functions, what we need to do first of all is to check if this particular model has this value, has this array. So let's check that out first. So let's say if property exists, right? That's how you check if property exists. What class name? This particular class right now. And what property name? The property is this after select. If this item exists, let's loop through it. Now we can loop through this because even when it exists and has nothing, it is still an array. So we can loop through it. So just say for each. And in this case, this is what we are looping through. So let's loop through that property and we'll have a key and a value. Now, in this case, our value will be a row and the key is totally just useless. So usually, because it's after select, we know it's rows. Oh, particular row. Oh, wait. No. Sorry about that. We are looping through the thing that gives us a list of functions. So what we are getting are these items. So we don't really need the keys. We just need the values themselves because those values are functions. So let's just call them func like this. So let's remove the key. We don't need that. So it's just this as a func. Okay, so we've gotten this function name and we just need to run that function. So how do we run the function? It's simple. We just call it. So we just do that and put brackets like this. It means we have called that function just by doing that. And it's a variable, but the variable has a name in there. And because we've put these, it's going to assume that this variable is a function we are trying to call. This is the same as doing this, as if we did this. So you see, get category. So we've run this. But the thing is, we don't know what functions will be put there. That's why we're using a variable instead. So this is the one. But we want to grab the result because remember, these functions down here that we are running are returning the rows that we gave them. So we give them a row, they do some manipulation, and then they return that row with different information. In this case, those rows each will have a category name and so on. In this case, there will be a subcategory, so we're doing this one by one. Okay, so in this case, there's a returned value, and the returned value is res itself. So we have to give it this res as the data, because remember, for this function to run, it needs to have a set of rows that came with it. So we'll put that res here. That's before we return it. And then we'll say res is equal to the value here. All right. So now it means this res we're returning here is not the same res that we were checking here, the result here, because it will go through a set of functions that will manipulate it. Then afterwards, we're going to return the result. So if by any chance any of these results, any of these functions do not return rows, then this is going to be an empty value, because there will be one function here that didn't return the rows themselves. It will return no. So it's going to be an empty. So make sure every function you add here returns the result. Alrighty then. So this is all we need in order to run those functions. Simple and straightforward. Okay. So let me show you how this will work. Let's see some results here. So first of all, we're going to go here, and without all this, I want to do this. Let me go back to the admin section. Here we got the rows, right? By the time we get them here, everything has already happened inside the where function. Okay, all the categories should exist, etc., etc. But let's see that in action. So first of all, before anything happens, let's do show, and let's put die. That way, I just want to see the result. Okay, so here it's telling me undefined variable after select, which is on line 99 in model.php and defined very property course model. Boom. Okay, so there's something weird here going on. So let's go to number 99 in model.php. Let's see it right about here. Okay. Right. You see, a property doesn't need to have that. It should be like this. Same thing here. Okay, my bad. That's not how you call a property. So refresh. So uncaught type property exists. Okay, what's going on? Argument 2 property must be of type string, array given. Okay, so what it's saying here is that the argument number 2, which is property in this case, must be of type a string, but we gave it an array. So in property exists, the second argument, this is what it's saying. Property exists, the second argument must be a string, but we gave it an array. So let's look at the second argument. Property exists, the second argument is this. Right, so it's expecting a string. So since it already has this, so I guess it's expecting us to give it a string version of the property we want to check. Okay, so no problem. We'll obey the rules. Refresh. Okay. Here it's telling me call to undefined function get category. Okay, so the function is being called, but it doesn't know what that function exists or not. This is because it's trying to call the function here, but this function does not exist because it's checking in the functions page. It's not checking in the model itself. So these functions exist in this model. So we have to run them in a way that tells it where to find them. So it's in exactly the same model. So we're just going to do this. We're going to say this like that and func. Now I'm leaving this $sign because this function name is a variable. It's not, if I do this, then I'm trying to run the function named func, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to run the function that is the variable name within this. This is why here I can leave this as opposed to here where I don't put that, because this is the actual text. But in this case, the actual text is within the variable. So I hope you understand there. Okay, so here this tells us where to get this function within a class. So back here, let's refresh. And everything has run according to normal. But we have no result, so this is a problem. It means we did not return something. So as we are looping through, we are adding to the res, which is this one, right? So this res, we supply res and then we get res back. This should work, but it seems one of these functions is not returning a result. So let's check which one it is. This one right here. Sorry about that, I forgot. So every one of them should return a result. So this one was not returning the result, and there we go. So as you can see right now, we have everything as it should be, but the category is still an ID. Now we have the capacity to grab that row from the categories with an ID of 4 and then include it to this array. So let's do that in the next video because we've already done too much in here, lest I confuse you guys. So let's just do a recap real quick of what we have done here, just in case you are confused. What we've done here is we've created a system where we can add functions to a model, okay? These functions are very specific to each model, depending on the needs of that model. So once we add those functions, and then we've created a system where we can choose when those functions run. In this case, we create variables at the top here, and this one is for the after select. Now, these are just names of these arrays. You can name them anything you want. It's just that this describes what we are trying to do. So after select, I want these functions to run. So how does it know when to run them? It's because when we go to the model function, the function that actually reads from the database will force it to run those functions here. manipulate the result, and then return that result and bring it here. So this means we have to add this part to every function that does a read, even this one, the one first. We'll do exactly the same thing. So here we'll copy this part like this, and that's it. So coming down here, before we return the result, well, wait a minute, I didn't put it on the right spot. Paste, there we go. Okay, so in this case, we don't need to do a for each loop because we just want the first result here. No need to suffer. We're just getting the original result here from res. So what I'll do is I'll do this here, say res is equal to res 0, so that at least we know it's just one row that we have, which is an object. So after select, if there is, we'll still run those functions through, but we are running them through this item, res, which is just one item in this case. Res, etc., etc. But again, this may be a problem because these functions are expecting arrays within arrays, so maybe we shouldn't do this. I'm going to remove that for now. And then instead of a for each, because I just want, oh yeah, no, this for each is required, definitely. Okay, we'll see what we can do with these guys later, how to go about this. Okay, so find or is exactly the same thing as well. So copy this everywhere where we get results. In this case, this is this one. We will do the same thing. Like this. Run those functions. And in the update, same thing. No, not the update. Insert, no. Update, no. Find or is a read, is a select. Where is a select. First is a select. Okay, so we are done. Alrighty then. So I'll see you in the next video.